Alright, time for balling on a budget version 2. I got this lawn tractor. I think it's a Yard Machines, but I got it for a screaming deal. Obviously doesn't have a hood on it, but it runs and it drives. I did have to put a new carburetor on it, a $30 carburetor from Amazon. But the whole reason I got it was I took the deck off. I don't have a yard to mow, but my snow removal is a bitch. So I got it specifically for snow removal, and I leaned on a lot of YouTubers for ideas, so I just wanted to do this to show people how I built mine in case they want to emulate it. This was done entirely out of scrap metal. I'm not going to hide the wires. I don't need any comments on my welds or the fact that I didn't paint anything, because I don't care. I just want to show you how I built it in case you want to emulate my build. I got this, where's the brand on it? This is a Cycle Country ATV blade I got for 75 bucks off Facebook Marketplace. Basically what I did is I plasma cut these L-shaped brackets right here, and they bolt into the existing bolt holes on the frame. That one there holds on actually the front axle, and then this one just holds the frame together. And I built it just like a trailer hitch you get for like your truck. And I had this square tubing. It's like, I think it's 3" by 3" square tubing. And then I also had this, I believe that's 1.5" square tubing laying around. Now this 1.5" square tubing, anyone thinks that's too small for this application, it's like 1/4" wall. It's super heavy. So what I did was I made a cutout in the 3" square tubing that was 1.5", and it goes all the way through the back there. So this piece right here is kind of like a drawbar. It's actually probably 5 inches that way, and then it's got a cross hole here, and I was going to put a pin through it, but I just went ahead and bolted it. But if I take this bolt right here out and unhook the winch, this whole plow assembly comes off, and I just have like the hitch on the front of the tractor, and I can use it as a tractor for the rest of the time, because I do have a property I help out with I could probably use it for that. And then to mount the winch, I have a ton of this 7-gauge plate laying around. 7 gauges around 3/16 of an inch thick, plenty thick for this application. So this plate and these angles are solely, or actually this is flat stock. This plate is to mount the winch, and it's welded to the front of the L bracket, and then this flat stock is only to mount the headlights. So it doesn't have any structural significance. But then I made my receiver for my receiver hitch out of, I believe it was more of the 7-gauge, and I just made it into a tube, so I didn't have to go find like ID OD tubing. I just made my OD tubing myself, and it reinforces this thing. And then for the pivot, I got this, I got a bunch of angle laying around. I paid these 2 angles, and from an engineering perspective, the web here on the angles provides lateral stiffness against any twisting force this way. And then this connection's so close, and this angle's the same thickness. It's 1.5" angle with 1.5" tubing, so the moment of inertia on this angle is the same as the tubing, more or less. And then I had some more 7-gauge plate I cut into like this half moon shape and notched it to go around these webs on the blade. And so it pivots on this nut right here. Let me raise the blade a little bit. So if you raise the blade up and pull this pin, and pull this pin, the blade can angle, and you just put it in in the hole for the appropriate angle. And my goal was to make the angle so it's exactly the track width of the tractor. The only problem I found is when you have it in this raised position, or excuse me, when you have it in an angled position. I mean, I know truck mounted plows have this problem too. The corner drags. So if I make any modifications to this summer, I'll make this bar longer to increase, just to help with the geometry so that that corner doesn't drag anymore. I also learned from a lot of YouTube guys I watch that like you do want a pretty extreme angle on these blades compared to like what you do on a truck, because the tractors just don't have the power to push the snow. And then it's like I did my whole alley and it's a big circle, and I kind of like put the windrow right in the middle, so I was really only pushing it with half the blade. The other thing about having that winch on there is if I am doing like property, like trail maintenance and stuff like that, I can just use that winch as a winch if I get the tractor stuck or something like that. I don't want to take it off every time. I don't want to take the winch off when I take the plow off. You can see how the winch is attached. I cut a half moon shape out of more 7 gauge, drilled a hole in it, put that D-ring on there. So yeah, the winch is kind of overkill as far as like it only uses 3 or 6 inches of rope at a time to take it up and down. And then these trip springs, I just bought some trip springs that were like appropriate length. And I can actually, I've got another set of holes right here. So if I want this to cut at a sharper angle, I can move this down here and I can actually, my trip springs, I can just let the bolts out. I just finished doing a bunch of test plowing and the trip springs worked beautifully. It went over a bunch of bumps and tripped the springs, and they worked as advertised, and the blade reset perfectly. So these are Harbor Freight, like $10 halogen headlamps, and I knew they'd really draw on the alternator, but they draw hard on the alternator. My plan was to replace the bulbs with LEDs. I just wanted like the housings basically, and then I broke the lens like yesterday. So, but that's all. I just wanted to give, like I said, people, if you're trying to build one yourself, an idea of how I fabricated it, so maybe you might want to fabricate it in the same fashion.